So I had the privilege of going to Bermuda for my birthday this year. I had a really great time. It was a phenomenal time. I had a great time on the cruise. I had a great time. Period. It was awesome. I would recommend anyone to go to Bermuda birthday, um, uh, anniversary, um, destination wedding. I would go have a great time. It was phenomenal. My birthday was amazing in Bermuda. But there was something that took place in Bermuda that kind of puzzled me, and it really didn't puzzle me. It was just more of a eye opening situation. Um, there was a store in Bermuda that I wanted to go back to because there were some really nice shirts that I really wanted to buy, and it was a polo shirt that I saw, and I was like, oh, I really want. I didn't get it the first day that I was in Bermuda. I went back the next day to get it, and so I got off the ship and went back to the store, and it was in full boom because when we got to Bermuda, it was night. It was like their time. I think it was like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, something like that. So the next day, I got back off the ship and went to the store, and I found the shirt, and I got it, and I headed to the counter, and there was a lady in front of me. She was a white lady, and she was paying for her goods or whatever. And there was a little old white lady that walked from my right around to my left, and I kind of saw her but didn't see her, and so I was already in line behind the lady that was there, and the cashier saw me and she nodded because she was there the night before, and I had purchased some t-shirts um, that night. And so when I came back the next morning, she kind of nodded and gave me a smile. And she was a white lady as well, the lady that was behind the counter. And when she nodded and she kind of gave me a smile, I nodded back and I smiled back at her because I remember I was asking her about the shirts that were there, and the prices there on those shirts that they had, those t-shirts, were extremely cheap. They were nice quality shirts, um, and they were really nice shirts. And for the price they were selling them for, I was like, yeah, I'm down for this. So I got quite a few shirts. But there was this one polo shirt that I liked, and I'm gonna go back and get it. So I went back and got it. But anyways, fast forward back to the story. So after we had this nice little nonverbal exchange, the lady that was behind me, as I said, she made her way to my left, and the lady that was at the counter paying for her goods was like, "Oh, hey, come on up here and pay for your stuff," as if I wasn't standing there. And I didn't say anything. I was like, okay, so I guess I'm not standing in line behind you. And it wasn't as if she couldn't see me because the way everything was set up, her being at the counter and her and the lady were face to face like this. I'm standing right beside her, which is where the line was because there was no room back here behind her. So I had to stand to her side. So the only way you couldn't have seen me was if you just tried not to see me. But the lady that kind of came around me was standing to my left. So the only way she could have saw her was to see me first because she would have to turn her body this way to see the lady standing beside me. So the lady that was the little old lady that came up, she came over, jumped. She came from my left, walked right in front of me, put her stuff on the counter. I'm just kind of standing there like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. The lady behind the counter says, "Ma'am, I think he was here before you were." And the lady behind the counter reaches over the counter and asked me for the shirt that was in my hand. She said, "Well, sir, do you want me to get your?" And I was like, "Sure." And I handed her my shirt, and she rung it up. The two ladies in front of me really didn't care for that very much. It was it was interesting. Um, because the little lady that had walked around grabbed her stuff off the counter, proceeded to walk back around me, and tossed her stuff down, and she just kind of walked her way towards the door. And I was like, oh, oh wow, what did I do? And this story escalates. So the lady behind the counter was, I think, about to take a smoke break or something. So I proceeded to walk out the door because I was going to go to the other parts of the mall, but I didn't want to walk flat out the door. I wanted to go around the building because I wanted to take some pictures of the outside. And there was a cop that was out there, standing outside of the mall, as you come out, because you can either go out the door to the outside of the mall, or you could stay within the mall and just go the door that's go through the door that's attached to the rest of the mall, like any other store. And so I wanted to go around because I wanted to take pictures of the outside because it was daylight again, and I wanted to take some pictures. Very nice building. So I walk outside, and the little old lady and the lady that was standing in front of me, at the line at the counter, were outside talking to a police officer. And I walk out, and I walk to my right, and I see somebody pointing at me, and it's the little old lady. She's pointing at me like this. This is what she's doing as I'm walking, and I'm stopping because again I'm taking pictures, so I'm stopping and snapping and stopping and snapping. And you hear her say, "That boy just jumped in front of me." I think I didn't jump in front of you. You jumped in front of me. But I actually wasn't going to say anything. That's the funny part. I actually wasn't going to say anything. If the cashier had taken her, I wasn't going to say a word. I mean, I'm whatever. Um, so the police officer is trying to understand what exactly is going on. So, as I said, to bring this thing full circle, the lady that was behind the counter just so happened to be walking outside behind me, as a matter of fact. And I'm walking and snapping and walking and snapping and walking and snapping. There are like chickens and roosters everywhere, and they're not like like a herd or a stampede of them, but they're just kind of placed in different parts of right outside the mall. Beautiful birds, beautiful, beautiful birds. I took pictures of those as well. And I'm seeing this lady point my direction, basically at me. And so when she said that boy jumped in front of me, and the other lady who was there in front of me, who was paying for her goods, her product, was saying, and the lady didn't say anything. She didn't say anything, and she was talking about the cashier who was walking out behind me. So the cashier walked over and said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry. What's going on? What's the problem? Did something happen?" And the lady that was in front of me said something to the effect, because by this time I still have not walked that close to them where I'm, in confrontation with them. So the cashier, walked over and she said, "Well, ma'am, what happened? Did something happen? What's wrong?" And she says, "Well, ma'am, you bypassed her to ring him up. That guy, that boy over there." And she said, "Well, ma'am, he was standing there before she got there. So that wouldn't have been fair if I rung your stuff up as if he was not standing there." So the lady that was in front of me says, she said, "But she was with me." She was with me. And so so the cashier said, well, she was with you, but he was in line after you. So the police officer's trying to like sneak away from the conversation because he's just like, yeah, I don't want no parts. He's a black guy, but I think he was uh, part of the Bermuda country and or state, country, state, country, state, country, Bermuda state. I think they're a state. And so he's trying to, move away from the situation. And as he's moving away, like, trying to, kind of tiptoe away a little bit, little inch at a time, inch at a time. And so the lady the lady that was in front of me turns to him and said, "Are you gonna do anything about this?" And he turns to her and says, "No, ma'am, I'm not. He didn't do anything wrong. You obviously didn't see him standing there. She was with you, but he came and got in line before she got there. The cashier saw him. She asked for his stuff. He paid for them. She could have been rang up after he was done. Let's just say they weren't quite satisfied with that. But I don't know what happened after that. I walked off. I took my pictures. I was done. But it's amazing to me. It almost seems as if there was privilege involved. And what I mean by that is that you felt the little old lady felt that I somehow robbed her of something. Um, almost like a how dare he, be rang up before me, or um, how could you um, provide service to him before you provide service to me? And for the other lady that was in front of me, how dare you look over this lady, um, white lady, and not service her before you service this gentleman. Need I mind you, my ship came out of Charleston, South Carolina. That's where my dock was. So, and they were from Charleston, South Carolina as well. And I found that out because as I was walking back around to get back on the ship after I went to all the places in the mall, they were outside having conversation with some other people that were on the ship with us, and one of the things they said was that, oh, we're from Charlotte, now it's Charlotte, South Carolina, excuse me, Charleston, South Carolina, and they were just going on, and I was like, okay, well, all right, this little old boy from Montgomery, Alabama, um, but it was interesting, to say the least. It was an experience, one that I have encountered before, but the conversation was a lot different. And I don't really know what the deal is with this idea of privilege. And I also don't understand this idea, um, where people feel like privilege doesn't exist when it does. Obviously, it does. Because my thing is, what if, what if the lady behind the counter, um, decided to just ring the lady up that was beside me versus me? Should I have been okay with that? Should I have felt as if I'm being wrong? Should I have said something? Should I have been irate? Should I have just said, "Oh well, it is what it is, no big deal"? Um, I feel like I should have said something, and I didn't have to. That was the beautiful part about the whole situation. I didn't have to say anything. Everything was done for me. I didn't have to say a word. And based off what I know about history, that doesn't always happen. Um, so I think I got off lucky, but I do recognize that was something that did happen, and it was obvious that it upset the little old lady as well as the lady that was in front of me.